I never want to feel that weak again. Ever.
What we do know is that healthy lifestyle, like you were leading, helped you navigate the problem with more strength and health and ability to heal.
If that should happen to me prior to me having these resources, I don't even want to think about it because I think I would have been in a really horrible place.
Hi, and welcome to the BODi Experience. I'm Carl Deichler, CEO of BODi, and we are going into the summer months. And I want to help you get in the mindset of what we call a true feel-good summer and keep that mindset all the way through the fall and the winter. Build healthy habits that make you feel great. I got a little secret for you, or maybe someone will call it a breakthrough. Did you know there's a prescription available now? And of course, it's been known for years. It's the most reliable way to lose weight, but also build muscle, skeletal muscle. And beyond that, this prescription can reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes, the risk of heart disease, hypertension, can make you sleep better, can reduce feelings of depression and hopelessness. It can reduce the signs of aging. In fact, some have called this prescription the fountain of youth. And what I'm talking about is a prescription so powerful, they barely even teach about it in medical schools. But every doctor's aware of it, and some do prescribe it. It's called exercise. Lifting weights, cardio for your heart and lungs, yoga and primal moves for flexibility and agility. A prescription that doesn't require the fine print of a pharmaceutical to warn you of dizziness, nausea, suicidal thoughts. This prescription is literally the antidote to a life that's frustrating or declining. And it's literally the secret to a feel-good summer. Taking advantage of this body like we love it and celebrating it by taking care of it, by moving it, by helping keep it strong, by reminding it that we need this body to move and be agile and give us the ability to do the things that we enjoy about life. And today's guest on the BODi Experience is a customer who is proof that this prescription is available to everyone at virtually any stage of life. Today, we're going to talk to Jenice Johnson Williams, who lost 72 pounds over the course of 2 years and 7 months. She's on her way to losing 100, and she has a phenomenal story that's going to help people who might wonder, is it too late for me to start? Is this available to me if I'm not an athlete, or if I'm not somebody who's in love with fitness just naturally, which I know I'm not. So let's hear the story from Jenice herself. Jenice, welcome to the BODi Experience.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So great to have you here. Now, your story is amazing, and you've gotten a lot of attention around the office. People are just blown away with what you've achieved. So why don't you take us to the beginning?
Okay, so I am an older mom, and when I first started with BODi, I had my postpartum depression was horrible. I didn't know what to do. I was seeking Instagram for a lot of solidarity and feeling like I wasn't alone in how I was feeling as a new mom, let alone an older mom too. And somebody started following me. Her name's Natasha Day. She's out of Canada with Empower Her Legacy. And she was the kindest soul, like the person that I needed. She messaged me. She wasn't anybody that I would have met otherwise without being online. And we talked a lot. I watched her journey. I watched her work out, and she was using BODi. And I didn't know a lot about it. And she just said, I know this would really help you. And one day I ended up in Seattle with my baby girl, and I could not keep up. All of the walking, carrying the car seat, I felt so unhealthy. And we're talking about somebody that was doing CrossFit years before. And I had never felt more unhealthy in my life. And when I came back, I messaged Natasha. I said, I'm ready. I'm just ready. And I started working out at midnight sometimes because my daughter didn't sleep. And I remember just wondering why I hadn't done this sooner when she kept saying, you need this. I know this can help you. And she had a young daughter at the time too. Our kids are not far apart in age. And she was doing this with her daughter too. And I was just amazed. And so here I was doing it too. Sometimes, like I said, at midnight, sometimes just whenever we could fit a workout in. And then it just became I got to work out instead of do I have to work out.
Let me ask you, Jenice, because you said that you had done CrossFit. I didn't know that. And so I'm, people love CrossFit, and I'm always blown away at, their resolve to go do these workouts and rowing machines and all this stuff. Why didn't you just continue that? Was there not a CrossFit near you? I'm just wondering, what was it that was missing, or that you didn't just go back to the thing that you knew?
For me, I was flipping tractor tires. I mean, easily. I did not feel aligned or connected to CrossFit because I now was this older mom with this baby and all of her demands. My child is phenomenal. Of course, we're all going to say that as moms. I needed something that I didn't have an excuse. So, if you go to a CrossFit, for example, you've got to get ready. You've got all these rules. You've got all these things you're doing. And that didn't appeal to me anymore. I had this baby. I didn't want to get up and think about where I needed to go to get my workout. It was such an appealing thing to just turn my TV on and that I could do it at any time. And there was variety. I would say I was getting a lot better results doing that as opposed to like, what's your woad of the day and all of that came with CrossFit. And I'm not poo-pooing CrossFit, but it just was not the vibe at the time of my life. It wasn't what I needed. And then there's a whole community of CrossFit. Of course, people love that part of it too. But I also got to have the community. So I had the workouts. They're right there next to me. I had my crew. I'm so blessed to have a beautiful team. And I had support every single day without having to throw on something and get ready and, who's going to watch my kid? My kid could be right next to me. Often I have tons of video of her working out with me.
Well, there's a concept of influencing your own behavior, which is called propinquity. Okay. It's a funky word, but what that means is basically if you want to achieve something that's difficult, and that's not currently a habit, it's a lot easier, or it's a lot more effective to change that behavior if the behavior you want to go toward is like right near you, that you can't get around it. Like you said, when it's you don't have the excuse of, oh, I got to get in the car, I got to get ready, I got to go to it. But if it's right on your phone, if it's in your basement or in your spare bedroom or living room, you've just got an entire suite of excuses that are not available anymore. So I can understand that. And again, anybody who's staying consistent with fitness and exercise, whatever their mojo is, CrossFit, Planet Fitness, Equinox, however they're going about it, good for you. I think that for sort of our tribe, it's the people who they want that simplicity. They've got busy lives. Mm-hmm. They want to be able to get in and out in 20 to 30 minutes in general. Sometimes, obviously, doing a project like Dig Deeper or something that goes to 45 minutes. But I totally get it. So you were at this place and you got started. Okay, tell me about the experience. And because I'm always blown away by this behavior change and the ability to stay consistent with it when you don't have a trainer showing up and knocking on your door and making sure that you do it. How were you able to affect your own behavior this way? What was the motivation that you had to stay with it? Because it can be hard. What was your starting weight again?
So the first time it was probably similar. So the first time that I had my transformation, I might have been 250-ish, 60-ish, I want to say. That was after Maya. This time around with Charlie, who is now 3, 282, 284, around there.
So that can be disheartening, right? You've had a transformation, and it's just easy for people to go, this is the way I'm going to be. So you got started. What program did you first start off with? Fitness and nutrition. And how did you manage to keep yourself going?
I started with Clean Week, I believe, first, and then I went into 21-Day Fix, and I was doing the portion containers. And for me to be consistent, you already got me with color. As you can see, I love color, and I love containers. So win-win right there.
There you go.
I love that it's spelled out for me. Like, this is what you're eating. This is how, and people really talk about the restriction. So initially I thought this is going to be restrictive. But really what I found is I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating enough of this particular thing. I didn't feel restricted. I got really creative about what I did. And I think a lot of that, the biggest thing about consistency is that if you don't have real resources that are of quality, then you're not going to be consistent. I can't tell you how many people are like, well, I go on YouTube and I follow up, and then they fall off. Why do they fall off? Because it's not consistent. You're Googling for all these things. You're trying to find all this stuff online. Whereas I had everything right there. I had it sent to my door. I had it online. It was all in one place. Make it simple. I'm a busy mama, so I didn't need all the extra complications. It's all right there. So that helped me to be a lot more consistent. I had the accountability piece of my team and the people that I've grown into a sisterhood, actually. We've been through so much together. And accountability of showing everybody that I was doing this. Like, I could be talking about doing this and not have results. No way. And then I had all the great resources. So it was kind of I'm not going to say it was easy, but it's a no-brainer, right? It felt like everything that I needed was so accessible and easy at a time where I'm a stepmom of 2 older children. I have never in life had a baby around me. I'm an only child too. So here's this little being and I'm like, what do I do? And the other thing is that she worked out with me. It was so cute. It still is. Look, I don't want to cry on this podcast, Carl, but I'm getting teary thinking about it because it was beautiful. She was so invested in it with me.
That's awesome. Why does that make you tear up?
I think because now I have a 3-year-old and they both want to work out. And when I start working out, I want to work out, Mommy. And even if they don't do it the whole time, they want to do it. And they see me do it. And sometimes because it might be too complicated for them, they make up their own workouts. And my older daughter trains. Actually, Shanti shared one of the ones that I did. We were doing Dig Deeper and she was flexing and then she was training the younger one. And it was horrible.
It's a really big deal. And I appreciate your emotion because it is a powerful thing that you've witnessed and that you've enabled. Because look, we have a child obesity crisis in this country, in the world, and fast food is so available. Processed food is all around us, and it's delicious, and so. People get into a habit of rewarding the kids with food and with candy or whatever. So the fact that you are sharing this journey with your kids, that's one of the benefits of doing it at home, right?
Yeah.
But you're sharing the journey with your kids. So now it is the reality, and the fact that they are growing up with the understanding that this is a part of our reality of life, to take care of yourself. That's an amazing gift. And I think many people discount it or dismiss it. And I think it's something for you to be really proud of. I appreciate you sharing that here. But do you remember your results? What was your experience like of that first round of 21-Day Fix?
I have never completed a program of anything. Like
Really?
no, I hadn't, because I guess if you think about CrossFit, you're always going to that next WOD and like, I'd stopped doing CrossFit. And I had like all like CDs of stuff that I didn't necessarily finish, but I finished this, and then I just got, it was like addictive. After that, it was like Morning Meltdown 100, which top tier. I actually, Morning Meltdown 100 and then Bar Blend is what created that first result. And they were married so perfectly for me. And how did I feel? Woo! I was felt again. Like I was looking at me like, you did that. Like when I've completed those 100 days, I cried because I was like, I did that. Like I finished it. Was it perfect? Or was it every single day? No, but I finished it under all kinds of conditions. And I felt amazing and I felt vibrant again. And it actually had helped me. It might sound a little funny, but coaching actually helped me like find my voice again, because I was doing something publicly again. And I said, if I can get up here with my, as I'm going through this, I started to wear a sports bra, whether or not my belly was where I wanted it or not. And that confidence, I was like, if I can do this, there's some of these big dreams that I have that I want to accomplish now. And I'm not a shy person. I don't know if you can tell. And I'm not timid, but I think that I had lost a little of myself in motherhood, as often that we do. And I had lost all this weight and I was looking good, but I'm going to tell you, it just took one Valentine's Day weekend trip and then I got my second. And when you were talking a little bit about like the discouraging thing, I was like, I did all this work and I am pregnant again. And I love sheet cake when I'm pregnant and lots of burgers. And I was like so worried. I had had all this progress. And I had felt amazing. There's pictures of me in clothes that were now falling off of me. And I was like, what am I going to do now? But I wasn't as worried because I had all the resources. And I worked out during the entire pregnancy, but I still gained a ton, which was discouraging. But nowhere in me that I said was like, I'm going to quit. I can't do this. I just said, I've got BODi. And like, you can do this again somehow. You're going to do it again. And I did. And I have more to lose this time, but I've already lost more than what I lost the first time, because I think I picked up more weight on the second pregnancy than I did on the first. But I will say that I'm stronger this time around than I was the first time, because I was working out during the pregnancy.
So, you're dealing with family and pregnancy and life, and you're staying consistent, you're getting results. But then something else was going on, and you sort of got blindsided by something. What was happening, and tell us about the obstacles that none of us want to get this news or be faced with, but you were. And why don't you share that part of the story?
We were in this home together, me and my husband, with my upcoming baby coming, and my daughter and my stepson, and we were there about 3 years. And as things happen, my husband and I decided to separate. We were already going to sell the home. At the time, we were in a county that was rapidly growing and getting very expensive. Our mortgage skyrocketed. So we separated, sold the home. And during that duration, I moved in with my parents. I was rebuilding my life and kind of where all this was going to go. I had no idea. What I had was BODi. I had my team. They were by and large so supportive. Like, I don't know how it would have been if I didn't have my team. And then I have this wonderful moment. As a matter of fact, I was doing chop wood, carry water, and doing all these moves. And you know how they are. You know those moves, like those kick.
I love those moves.
And that day I went to the bathroom, and I'm telling you, I felt top tier. I felt great. And there was, I don't know how graphic we can get, there was blood in the toilet. And being that I wasn't far from, that lady time, I just kind of, what is that? And we kind of dismissed it. And I was still working on, I was still working out the next day. And that evening, I buckled over in the most excruciating pain I've had. I can't even think, it's like childbirth is the closest, but it was worse than that. On the right side of my body, I couldn't hold anything down, and I was bleeding again. And we rushed me to the emergency room to find out I had a mass in my right kidney. And I had renal cell carcinoma. It was a 6.9 centimeter mass, which I was floored. Here I was, even when they would not necessarily sign up, they would always, people are in my inbox all the time. I'm so inspired. And what are you doing to get that? What do you live in? And all this stuff. And I've been kind of known for wellness. And I was like, how did this happen to me? I was embarrassed. I was scared. I was in agonizing pain. I was in the hospital for a week. I had to get a blood transfusion. I was on a Foley. If you don't know what that is, it's basically is catheter. And oh gosh, I mean, just to hear that this could be cancer. And then it was confirmed with the biopsy. My urologist was pretty sure when he went in that it was renal cell carcinoma. He was not in any doubt. And having to process that. And one of the hardest things was not working out. So my mental health just plummeted, because that was part of my mental health, was working out. And I couldn't. I could barely move. I had a stent, and it was painful because apparently it was starting to fall out and I had no idea. We're talking wearing diapers. It's terrible. and I had to wait for the surgery. So I was going through what I went through in the hospital for a week, and then almost about 2 weeks just bedridden. And then the surgery came, and that was another week in the hospital. And then all the recovery time. And the only thing that I could do was walk, and I could barely do that. I mean, I was in a ton of pain. I didn't get to have what always helps me when I get in a low point, which was my working out. And all of that was happening in less than a year. It's not even been a year yet since any of that happened. My surgery was August 28th of 2023. And after all that, after surgery and everything, pulled myself together, moved into an apartment with my girls. My parents are super close nearby, and kind of just rebuilding again. And I would tell you, to the day that I was allowed to work out, I rushed and did, I think at the time I was doing the MBF block. And scars and all, I still do, my sports bra. You can see the scars. I had laparoscopic nephrectomy. So they went through the front. So I have these 3 surgical scars you can see. And might have jumped the gun on that first workout and kind of rested. And then, I couldn't wait to get back. I just went.
Well, I think often people, are like, oh, see that, working out and eating good and trying to get it all together, and she still got cancer. And I think the misconception is that that we are expecting to avoid all trauma and illness if we work out and eat well. And certainly there's plenty of proof that taking care of yourself will help you avoid illness or help your body fight against illness.
Yeah.
but there's, there is no sure thing in this world, and whatever the predisposition, genetics, and so on that might contribute to risk factors. What we do know is that healthy lifestyle, like you were leading, I'm quite sure helped you navigate the problem
Yes.
with more strength and health and ability to heal than if you had otherwise been completely fallen apart and still, 50, 60 pounds overweight, and having your body having to process that and navigate that at the same time that it's navigating cancer. So, good for you, and thank you for sharing that part of your story. Now, so let's go to that when you finally were healed enough to be able to get back to some of your intensity. This blows my mind. So in August you have this surgery and you're coming back from it, and so in December, we dropped a little program called Dig Deeper by Shaun T, a heavy body recomposition lifting program. And that is the program that you chose to jump into. Tell me about that decision and what your experience was like.
Now, y'all know Shanti knows how to sell it. Like, I mean, I was ready. I knew I was going to get that motivation that I needed. And I wanted the biggest thing of not working out during that time was feeling weak. And that is the probably out of like top 3 things I never want to feel. I never want to feel that weak again, ever. And I wasn't used to it. I mean, I felt weaker than right after pregnancy. I felt so weak. I had lost a lot of strength, like lifting 10 pounds felt it might as well have been 20, 30 pounds after all that, because I hadn't worked out for a few months. And when this program came along, I was like, so I finished up, I think I finished up MBF. I think I finished it up and I said, when Dig Deeper came right at the right time, and I was like, that is what I'm doing. And it has not disappointed me. Every moment I can see that I'm getting stronger. That's what I needed. I needed to feel strong again. And because it was so no BS and it was all the things that I needed, and also let's just say no jumping, okay? Because definitely didn't have that in me, right? A lot of jumping after everything.
Yeah.
And I felt amazing. And then I got to a point where I was moving from all of these different weights. I'd love to have more weights right now, though. I top out at about 30. But I know that I can go more. And that excites me because I felt like absolute nothing after I had that. I'd been so crushed. And what you said is so true about, like, if that had happened to me prior to me having these resources, I don't even want to think about it, because I think I would have been in a really horrible place, because there wouldn't have been that hope on the other side or the resources. Again, Empower Her Legacy, my team, they're all mostly all in Canada. They sent me care packages. I mean, I was just like floored by the support. And then I had all these resources. So I had no excuse again, even though even to this day, like my incisions still hurt, but I'm still going. And Dig Deeper for me just kept showing me that I can go further and I can go further, and I can see what I'm doing differently or what I can lift differently. And I also just want to go back to what you were saying about nutrition. The thing is, this tumor could have been in my body for either a short amount or a very long time. There was no baseline to compare. But what I will tell you that I was doing that I think alerted my body was that I was changing again and really dialing in what I was eating and intuitively eating. And I think that those things helped me. I asked my urologist, asked my nephrologist, I asked my GP, and they all have said the same thing, that they can't say no to me, that my eating style intuitively was trying to affect my kidney. And then the way that it was positioned, I think that it was being affected. And the only way that I knew that I had this was that it started to be aggravated. And that was on the heels of a lot of changes of what extra things that I was eating, more greens, more these things that my body, I felt called to eat. I was tuning into that. Like I was going to the grocery store and I was kind of like, what do you need? What do you, one day I wanted bok choy. I wanted to juice bok choy. I know that sounds gross and crazy, but I was listening. I was juicing greens. There was these things. There was like, you need this, you need this. And I believe, and like I said, I've asked my urologist, my nephrologist, my GP, none of them can say that I'm wrong, that it was the stuff that I was putting into my body that was like saying, hey, tapping on that tumor, saying, what are you doing here? And if it hadn't happened, renal cell carcinoma gets overlooked so often until it's too late because there's sometimes no symptoms. So because I actually had them, I feel was created because of what I was eating. I think it was trying to help me.
Now you, in the notes that I've got, you also, there's a couple of interesting things. I'd love to know how they work into all this. Okay. One is that not only you were doing portion fix, but then you added 4-week gut protocol. And so I'll be interested to hear that part of the story. And also, in the midst of all this, putting your life together, keeping your life together, you're in an apartment and you got the BODi bike.
Yeah.
And so you got access to all the programs. I'm just interested, why the move to 4-week gut protocol and what was your experience like? And then why add the bike to your overall experience of BODi?
So as far as 4-week gut protocol, that happened because I was in that same vein of me wanting to dial in. It was all in that same time. This is before the diagnosis. I really was intrigued with the idea of kind of seeing what my body would respond to. And like I said, it kind of like kickstarted into that intuitive eating stuff. I liked how I felt for the gut protocol because I knew that there were things like, maybe too much dairy, sugars, definitely gluten. Like nobody needs gluten. It's just, I know it tastes good, but I noticed that because I've done something similar before. So I was so excited when that program came out because I was like, okay, this is my sign to do this again. And it really led into kind of dialing me back in. As far as the bike, oh man, when BODi launched the bike, here's what it was. It was done so well where I was like, okay, here's my chance to do this thing that I didn't think Black women could do. And I know how that sounds because we could do anything. But I personally, anytime I had gone to a gym and I went one time, I never saw people who looked like me, curvy people. I didn't see, it was just this generic type of person who got on a spin bike. And for me, whenever I'm trying to really make myself feel stronger, more empowered, I go towards a challenge. And the bike was going to be a challenge for me. And I told my husband, and it was, I believe it was a birthday present for me. And I just couldn't believe, not only could I do it, but there were trainers that looked like me. And I was like, what? Like there's people who are, I mean, this might be around, had been around all this time, but I wasn't exposed to it. So for me, my first experience was the bike. After everything happened and I was able to get my bike again because it had been in storage, I was just like top tier, that feeling of being able to do it and in a small space. And then sometimes the steady state, I do B25. I can have a whole spiritual experience talking about B25. I revisit.
Why is that?
Oh my gosh. Look, you're going to get me to cry again. I'm going to cry about it. Here's why, because when that program launched, it was kind of some beginning stuff with me and my husband. And not only was I feeling strong, I loved that he had those, he like had every other day was like the hybrid day. So I got to get the lift, the weightlifting that I enjoy along with the bike. But every time, and even now, he would say something. It was like you would get your sermon and your workout and your motivational speaker all in that 25 minutes. And that to me, it's one of the fastest, like it feels like you're on it and then you're done, because it never felt grueling. You felt like you got a great workout, and you got a wonderful, just the things he would say hit. And it was kind of eerie, because it would be like a day, it was a tough day, and he would say something that felt so specific to what happened to me that day or how I felt that day. And I've plugged back into it now for some of my steady state, and it's the same thing. It's like, it's always on point. So I remember blubbering like an idiot, Carl, like when I first did B25. I don't know where it all is, but I had posted about it a lot, because I'm like, I'm over here crying and sweating. Like I'm covered like in tears and sweat. Because I just felt like Sean was taking me to church while I was also at the gym. It was wonderful.
So you've had this journey. I think you had told us you basically effectively have lost over 70 pounds in 2 years, 7 months or so, and you've had these incredible challenges along the way. Where are you now? Where are you going from here in your journey? How do you keep it going? And I guess to sort of close it out, what advice do you have for anybody who might be watching, who wonders if they can do it too, or just thinks that you have that special magic that some people just have to be able to stay consistent with this?
No, I think it's important to have resources that work, that are proven to work. And because I had the background that it had worked for me before, I'm like, what else would I do? I'm doing this again. Right now, I feel like working through healing, obviously physically, spiritually, emotionally, in my relationship, how I present myself as a mother, all of it's still learning. And I'm not perfect, but you don't have to be to try to do this. And I think what keeps motivating me, and that's the thing too, when we use the word motivate, sometimes that wanes. I would say the determination and the discipline comes in, because you've come so far, Jenice. Why would you let that girl that was working out with her baby in her arms, what would she say if she saw you quit right now after all of this stuff happened? So I would just say, if you're listening to this and you are like, I can't do it, and I feel like crap, and this, and this. I not only lost my house, I almost lost my husband. I lost a kidney. I lost my business, and I'm here.
Look, life can throw everybody a curveball, and I think that sometimes we focus so much on the problems that we put all our energy there, when it's a subtle nuance of focusing on what will incrementally make my life easier to navigate if I just take this action, even if it's not easy. So rather than focus on the problem and complain about the problem and be a victim about the problem, take that same energy like you did and put it toward just incremental, small steps. Show the kids, show up for the workout, drink the shake, use the containers. Well, I'm just so grateful, Jenice, that you shared your story with us. You're inspiring all of us. And to anybody listening who's ready to start, it's time to decide to have your version of a feel-good summer, because everything about your quality of life, like Jenice taught us, everything will be enhanced. Won't be fixed, but it's going to be enhanced by being more active and improving the quality of your nutrition and your eating choices. And it's going to be good for your whole family to see your commitment and consistency. And now you get access. If you're just getting started, we got 120 workouts from our BODi library of programs available at BODiPreviews.com. That's BODi with an I. That's over $60 of content, free. And you can even do the 14 workout challenge and see if you can lose 3 to 5 pounds in those 14 workouts, because we've seen people do it over and over again. And that's available to you just in exchange for joining our email list. If a great BODi experience happens and you can share it with us, we'd love to hear your story. Like we heard Janice's, you go to @BODi Stories on Instagram. Again, that's with an I. And the team will take a look. You just DM your story to us, and that'll help us find more inspiration to share. Also, if you want to get updates from me, whenever we post a new episode of the BODi Experience, or you want to get special offers or announcements, you can join my little private text community. That's at 818-650-4369. You just send me a text. There's a few prompts that it'll walk you through, and I'll get to know you a little bit. But this is how we stay connected, and this is how we create community. And Jenice, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I'm always so grateful for people who bare their soul, and you shared some emotion. And so thank you. And I hope it keeps getting better, and you continue to heal, and you continue to inspire people.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Totally. It's great because you embody the BODi experience. So everybody, to feel good about yourself and feel good about just showing up, every day you want to be excited and motivated to pursue life-changing results. BODi is here to help you do exactly that. This is the healthiest prescription in the world. Everybody wins when you get healthy results and you share them. Everybody who's watching you can be inspired by you. So go for it. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time on the BODi Experience. And here's to your health. Thanks so much, everybody.